Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. All right, all you positive heads, here we go again. Dalien, the alien, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Okay, I'll stop. Sorry.
Well, you kept going further. You said first time you ever dropped that on us a couple days ago.
I did?
You said, yeah, you did. And you said that you
my
could
memory's
keep going.
not what it used to be.
You said that you could keep going for a while, but I think you only did it one time that time.
Yeah,
and now you actually
I get
kept
embarrassed.
going a little further.
I get embarrassed on the high notes.
Oh, what a shame. Don't stop yourself, man. Oh, what a shame to...
You gotta be free, man.
Yeah, to get self-conscious when you're just on a roll, Oh, well, folks, here it is for y'all, just be free.
Be free, man.
I gotta be free, man.
Brace yourself.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to make a little bit of a fool of yourself.
Definitely
not saying that you were.
Definitely shown that I'm not afraid of that a time or 1,000 times.
Yeah, I know. I think we've established that.
So, what is going on in Positive Head Landia or something?
Well,
anything interesting in your world? Anything cool to report upon?
Yeah,
cool stories.
Just more manifestation of the things that we've set in motion. Pretty much everything that you've given energy to, and since you also reminded us that your memory fails you from time to time, I can remind you of some of these things. But no, these are things that just pop in my head. We've talked about synchronicity before, plenty, as our listeners probably know by now. And
hold on,
if they don't,
I'm going to do a cancellation real quick. Okay, so now I talked about my memory failing me. Let's rewrite that story. My memory is really, really good.
Exactly. Well done.
Man, I just remember so much.
Yes.
All the listeners are actually marveling at my memory. Wow.
Yes, your memory is getting better and better.
It's getting better and better. Okay,
yes.
Continue.
Well done. That's just one thing that easily pops in my head, right? Synchronicity. But it takes a little more specific forms, like this whole numerology thing, right? We start talking about numerology a little bit, and then, at least in my case, sightings of significant numbers. These paired numbers, 1111, 44, 444, these things are, happening quite a bit. And it's just a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, but mostly it just makes me think of how giving conscious energy and channeling intention like that, just manifests. Mm-hmm. So there's some of the magic that we hope to sort of channel through the podcast is really, really taking on a life of its own. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, it is. It is fascinating to play a role in this cool story unfolding, and hearing how many times we're getting messages from people like that are marveling at the synchronicity in their own life or the timeliness of the messages that we, just sort of decide to bring through on a given day, because we do leave a lot of spontaneity to it, as we have mentioned. So it is quite the cool experience. I'm very honored to play a role in it. So what do you got today for us, Dalien? Give us a cool story. I'm seeing the title of the story. I haven't heard anything about it yet, but I'm really intrigued by the title.
This is what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a little bit from the article and then we can talk about it because I found it a few minutes ago while I was looking for a story. And of course, yeah, as you can see, that title kind of is plenty to go on. First human being has their DNA manipulated to make white blood cells 20 years younger.
Wow.
Okay, so Elizabeth Paris, the CEO of BioViva USA, has become the very first human to successfully, from a biological standpoint, reverse the age of her white blood cells.
Wow.
Okay, so she's CEO of this company, a biotech company, it sounds like, right? So, and they develop their own, it says here, they utilize intramural and extramural peer-reviewed research to create therapies for age-related diseases. So they've created this technology, Brandon, to essentially reverse the aging of telomeres, which are short segments of DNA that cap the ends of chromosomes.
Right.
As cells divide, as our chromosomes and our DNA divides, during the course of our lifetime, those, I don't know, you could refer to them as like little tubes or cylinders or sticks of DNA, right? They replicate, so they just physically divide and they start getting shorter and shorter. So they figured out a way to restore them more or less to their original condition. And that's just remarkable. We're talking about like de-aging at the DNA level. So that's pretty crazy. I'll read you some more. In September of last year.
That beats my my turmeric.
I know, huh? by a little bit, possibly. In September of last year, this 44-year-old lady volunteered to partake in two of her own company's experimental gene therapies. One intended to battle stem cell depletion, which happens when we age and leads to various age-related diseases, and the other intended to protect against loss of muscle mass with age. So if they're doing this, and again, the article refers to white blood cells, which, is a very specific kind of cell, of course. But the fact that it's, once again, that we're sort of reversing aging at the DNA level sounds like, wants to, again, sort of hacked a pretty primal function, in our biological matrix. So we're about to start reversing aging at that level.
The outcome was successful. And how do they determine that her white blood cells are 20 years younger? The length of the telomeres, is that?
Yeah, let me skip to the relevant part here of the article. In March 2016, so just last month, the same tests were taken again by SpectraCell that revealed this lady's telomeres have lengthened by approximately 20 years.
Wow.
From 6.71 kb to 7.33 kb. This implies that Parish's white blood cells have become biologically younger. These findings were independently verified by the Brussels-based nonprofit HEALS organization and the Biogerontology Research Foundation, a UK-based charity committed to combating age-related diseases. I mean, at first I was a little leery, Brandon, honestly, that this article might be a little bit of a commercial for this biotech company's technologies. They're trying to tout it. But, I mean, if this is legitimate and being, like, independently verified and so on and so forth, then, yeah, there you have it, sort of this explanation of what's happening. We're, restoring DNA to a youthful condition. And you can imagine what the implications are going to be from there.
And how long, I didn't catch it, how long between the first test and the second test?
I don't know when the first test happened.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's mentioned here. It says that she submitted herself to this experimental treatment in September of last year.
Okay.
So you can see over the course of the last 6 months or so, 7 months.
And I wonder if there's any differences in her physical appearance, her feeling, any of those sorts of things. Like,
I know that's a really important part, isn't it, Brandon? And that's a fair point you make, because this lady is, after all, again, she's the CEO of this organization, so she's sort of becoming a guinea pig for her own product, in a sense. So it's all very well and good, but what does it do for you is absolutely the question. I think that at least you have to conclude that if from a biological standpoint, Brandon, if our cells are getting younger, then it would have to have a sort of trickle down effect on the body or yourself ultimately, right?
Right.
That's really where I come from with a lot of these things. Is how does it make you feel? What does it ultimately do for you?
Right.
Because it may be affecting your cells, but if your self, as you could say, really in the end, isn't changing, then perhaps you're not going to derive lasting benefit from it.
All right, moving right along from the world of the physical to the world of the non-physical. We received a question from Katie, a listener, and I would like to read it and talk about it a little bit. Brandon, I was just listening to your podcast with Alexander Hain about synchronicity and astral projection, and I wanted to ask a couple things. Can you elaborate to me a bit more about what it feels like when you're starting the astral projection process? For me, I have had a few out-of-body experiences, some while meditating, some while under the influence of marijuana, and other times it'll just happen, especially when there is a message that I need to understand and need more direct. It feels mainly like there is a tingling electric sensation all along my body, and it feels as though I start to slip through a veil. Yes, Harry Potter reference there, LOL. I begin to see a lot of pitch blackness and what appears to be lots of light stars illuminating the darkness. I start to feel like I'm falling, and then I scare myself by thinking that I'm dying, and I come out of it. I'm not sure if this is the projection or if it is something else. I was just certified in Reiki 1 and 2 this past weekend and started to experience this feeling during a meditation. It freaked me out a bit too much. However, some of my spirit guides, one is a marijuana-loving shaman, are encouraging me to just relax and allow it to happen. Does this sound like anything that you have heard of or experienced before? Also, I've been experiencing some metaphysical communication over the last 2 years. I'm currently going through my Saturn return, so I think it is related to that. Other light beings have been communicating to me through people I love, my brother, boyfriend, cousin, close friends, taking their body and speaking to me through it, with these people having no recollection of what was said or why they said certain things after the fact. It's an interesting experience that I enjoy, actually, directly connected to the divine, as we always are, but it is a cool experience in the human form. It is happening more and more now, and now that I'm aware of it. It's magical. Have you heard of any of this stuff happening before, or do you have any advice for me when it happens again? What do you think it is? Wow. Definitely some interesting things going on in Katie's world. She isn't having the most boring experience of all times. So, yeah, I mean, for me personally, as I talked about in that interview, having that sort of tingling feeling and feeling like you're being falling. Those are all the sort of the sensations that from research, books that I've read, and my own personal experience that are leading to an astral projection and or out of body experience. And I would say, you know, if something is happening to you like this, you know, what exactly are you afraid of is what I would ask. I mean, you know, on one hand, I think it's interesting because you're talking about having these communications through your loved ones and you're loving that sort of experience. But when you go within and are having sort of an inner experience that really scares you. And I think that's I think it can be common with people. I think of my brother who's had quite a few out of body experiences, and he was not seeking it. It just started happening to him, as I've told the story before. So I understand that why it's kind of frightening, but I would challenge you to trust. I would challenge you to put trust in the universe. You know, here you are having these magical experiences of light beings coming through. I mean, I've had that sort of experience one time with someone, and it was so profound, very similar to what you're describing. And I've also shared that story in the podcast when I was at Lightning in a Bottle Festival a couple years ago. But you're having those sorts of experiences regularly. Like, what to be scared of? You know, this is probably happening to you, I would say. So you could confront your fear is probably part of why it's happening, because obviously you are very tapped into some high vibrational experiences. And why would this be a low experience? Why would, you know, do you believe that you're going to die do you believe that you're going to die and it's not meant to happen? In some way, you're going to leave your life, leave your experience. I mean, people who talk about having astral projections, these are all telltale symptoms that you're having here. And these people always come back to tell the tale. So I don't believe that anything's going to happen to you that's not supposed to happen to you, first of all. Second of all, anything that you do experience once out of the body it's all a reflection. It's all a mirror of you. It's all an extension of you. And so I would take this as a great opportunity to face your sort of fear that is coming up, and put trust in the universe, put trust that this is something that is happening to you because it's meant to happen to you. And if you are willing to go with it, it's going to turn into something really beautiful and magical. There's no boogeyman waiting to get you unless you are creating that. You are in control, I guess is what I'm saying. Even though in those moments, it may feel like it. And you were asking a little bit what it feels like when I'm starting the process, very much like what you've experienced. And yes, my problem is not so much that I feared leaving. I become very aware and sort of my mind gets too excited and then I snap out of it. So in my case, I'm overexcited about leaving, whereas you get excited or get fearful and it stops the process. So yeah, I think you're definitely on the verge of having an out-of-body experience from my research and my limited experience with it as well. And I would just challenge you to take this as an approach to face your fears and to go with the process and allow it to unfold. I don't think that this is happening to you because there's something awful, some awful trick waiting. I believe you're obviously tapping into some really interesting things and there's probably some great experience and lessons there for you. And we actually have an upcoming interview with a guy named Jason Quitt who just wrote a book all about his experiences on the astral plane and time traveling and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be an interesting one that you'll definitely want to tune into as well. But what I would like to do now is, and lastly, any advice when it happens again? Yeah, well, I guess I went over that. Go with it. Be brave. Be bold. You're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to you that shouldn't happen. And just try and cultivate a sense of trust. And this is a great, lesson for our external physical experience too. Trust the universe. Trust this is happening because this is part of your process, and you're going to be fine. Just like it sounds like you're interacting with spirit guides. It's not that far removed. So it's funny because on one hand you're already so comfortable with these sort of out there experiences, and it seems like you're getting hung up on this one because of the sensations. I think if you relax into the sensations, they're going to get very pleasant and not scary. Okay, moving right along. What I'd like to do is bring in a clip of Alan Watts talking about the mystical experience, because that's definitely what we're talking about here today, and definitely what you're experiencing, and it's always a favorite topic on the show. And let's see what Alan has to say about this particular topic. I found the mystical experience on the Always in the Now YouTube page. Take a listen.
When I use the word mysticism, I'm referring to a kind of experience, a kind of, shall we say, state of consciousness, which seems to be as prevalent among human beings as measles. It's something that simply happens, and we don't know why it happens, and although there are all sorts of techniques which claim to be able to promote it, and which are more or less successful in doing so, and sometimes rather less than more, nevertheless there is this peculiar thing that happens to people. And it's been recorded as far back in time as we have any recording at all. And that is coming over people the peculiarly convincing sensation that their ordinary sense of individuality, of personal identity, is transcended. And the individual suddenly feels an experience that actually it could be described from a number of quite different points of view. But we could add up these dominant characteristics. That instead of the ordinary feeling that I as an individual confront a world that is foreign to me, that is not me, in this kind of experience I find myself to be of one and the same nature or identity as the world outside me. In other words, I suddenly feel no longer a stranger in the world, but as if the external world were my own body. The next aspect of the feeling is even more difficult to assimilate to our ordinary practical intelligence, but a very overwhelming feeling that everything that happens, everything I have ever done, everything anybody else has ever done, was part of our harmonious design. That there is no error at all. That's the sort of thing I'm referring to. Now, you see, I'm not talking about a philosophy. I'm not talking about a rationalization, some sort of theory that somebody cooked up in order to explain the world and make it seem a tolerable place to live in. I'm talking about a rather whimsical, unpredictable experience that suddenly hits people. And it includes this element of feeling the total harmoniousness of everything. Now, I realize that those words can carry with them a sort of sentimental feeling, a sort of Pollyanna feeling. There are various religions in our society today which try to inculcate in you the belief that everything is a harmonious unity. You know, things like Christian Science or the Unity movement and so on. They want to make a kind of propaganda for one to believe, and through believing to feel that everything is harmonious. Now, to my mind, that is a kind of pseudo-mysticism, because it's an attempt to make the tail wag the dog. To make the effect produce the cause. Because this sensation of things being harmonious is somehow never brought about by insisting to yourself that that is so. Because when you do that, when you would say to yourself, all things are light, all things are God, all things are beautiful, etc., actually, by doing that, you're implying that they're not. Because you wouldn't be saying all this stuff if you really knew it to be true. So this thing, the sensation of a kind of universal harmony cannot come to us when it is sought, when we look for it as something to be an escape from the way we actually feel or to compensate for the way we actually feel. It's a thing that comes out of the blue. And when it comes out of the blue, just like hiccups come out of the blue or something like that, it's overwhelmingly convincing. And it stands as actually the foundation for most of mankind's profound philosophical, mystical, metaphysical, and religious ideas. Someone, in other words, to whom this sort of thing has happened. And as I said before, it strikes us as measles may strike us. Someone to whom this sort of thing has happened can't restrain himself when it has happened, and he has to get up and tell everybody about it. And alas, he becomes the founder of a religion. Because people say, look at that man, how happy he is. What conviction he has. He has no doubts. He seems to be sure in everything he does. You see, that's a wonderful thing about a great human being. He's like an animal or a flower. See, when a flower buds and the bud goes pop and opens, it has no hesitation or doubts about it. But when a young woman appears in society as a debutante, you know, she's not quite sure if she's going to come off. And she appears on the stage of society with some doubts in her mind. And therefore, all appearances of this kind are of a rather sickly nature. But when the bird sings, or the chicken's egg breaks, or the flower buds, there's no doubt about it at all. It comes forth. And so in the same way, when somebody has an experience of this kind, He just has to tell everybody about it. Because you see, he sees everybody around him looking dreadfully serious, looking as if they had a problem, looking as if the act of living were extremely difficult. But from his standpoint, the person who's had this experience, he feels that they look funny, that they don't understand, that there isn't any problem at all, that he has seen from where he stands, you see, that the meaning of being alive is just being alive. That is to say, I look at the color of your hair and the shape of your eyebrow, and I understand that that is the point. That's what we're all here for. And it's so plain, and it's so obvious, and so simple. And yet here is everybody rushing around in a great panic, as if it were necessary for them to achieve something beyond all that. And the funny thing is, they're not quite sure what it is. But they are devilishly intent upon it, after that thing. And so, to the person in the state of consciousness, which I call mystical, that all seems very weird, very absurd. But it's not something that you criticize in an unkindly way. You don't say, those damn fools, those idiots. You say, it's such a pity that they don't see it. Because although they are going around in this wildly ignorant pursuit, one of the funny things about it is that they don't realize that there is a dimension, a sense in which their pursuit is magnificent. It's to give an obverse sense to the saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Turn that into its opposite. Not forgive them, but give them a blessing, because they don't know what they do. Give them an honor.
So yeah, Dalien, I mean, as he kind of pointed out, it feels like, he talked about people having not necessarily out-of-body experiences, but sort of a oneness merging sort of experience, which is very common with people, and whether through meditation, through a DMT-like experience, through a near-death experience. And, one of the common things is, and this is what I was trying to get at earlier with Katie, is it's just all extensions of self. Everything is part of a harmonious design. And as he said, and, of course, he brought up an interesting point. When it comes out of the blue, it's overwhelmingly convincing, as opposed to trying to make it happen. And that's one of the things that, for me, I was for a while trying to induce out-of-body experiences, and not really having, able to cultivate it. So I've just sort of let it go and know that it'll come when it should come. And, one other thing that I meant to say to Katie, sorry to go back to this again, but it all ties together, is I think of my friend who was also fearful of his lucid dreams, where he would see a hag, the crone archetype, or a wolf that was chasing him. And I've talked about this before as well. And he finally faced that, he would run from it in his dream. And then he finally faced the scary wolf creature, and it embraced him, and they started dancing, and it became sort of like this jovial, laughing sort of thing. And I think, Katie, that will be the same kind of experience for you if you just go with it and face this. When it comes out of the blue for any of you guys, same thing. Try and relax yourself as much as possible. I have been unsuccessful relaxing myself in the past when it's happened to me, but and that's why I've kind of let it go. If it happens, it happens, and I'm sure it will be very, very convincing. And as Alan Watts talks about, and then of course he goes into some other stuff, Dalien, that's really profound, and just what you find through these sorts of experiences is The meaning of being alive is just that, just being alive. There's no, that is the pinnacle. And we give it all so much deep meaning and at the expense of missing, of course, what's right in the magic of just the simplicity of life itself. And that's kind of where he ends up taking the conversation, which, of course, is very wise and beautiful perspective to sort of integrate.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I get from, I think it was this bit and other things that he said as well, Brandon, but he strikes me as someone who I really resonate with a lot because he balances out things really well. He sort of synthesizes a lot of profound wisdom with a look at, I would call it the dark side of life or the negative stuff. And to me, there's a lot of value in that because there's a need to integrate negativity into a larger context in order to really sort of appreciate it for what it is, I think.
Yeah.
One of the things I think about is, for example, how in the universe, you could say, or certainly in the lives that we live, there are forces that are essentially universal or kind of impersonal, but that are essentially in charge of destroying and dissolving things. And these are the forces that, you could say really death is one of these forces. But
right.
It's from our shallow understanding of life and death that we fear death, where, now we're growing in an understanding that if life is truly eternal, and only bodies die, but we who we truly are lives on forever, then that's how we lessen the fear of death and remove the sting from it. We come to appreciate what the ending of a form really entails and things like that. So one of the things that I got from what he was saying is how sometimes we still kind of cling to this need to say in the face of things that are really negative from a relative standpoint. We need to say, it's all going to work out in the end. It's all fine. And there can be a little bit of denial there, I think, when we have a need to sort of say, that something's fine when it very kind of clearly isn't.
Yeah. And
I think that we are finding that it's in the acceptance of things not being fine a lot of the times that we come to experience peace, and that sort of deeper sense that everything really is fine under the temporary, because one of the other things that what he said made me think of, Brandon, is that, things are balanced out eventually in the end, but because of the nature of the life this whole kind of temporal existence, the pendulum's going to swing from one extreme to the other. So it's going to be, at some points it's going to be in the place that you really don't want to be. And so learning to be okay with that is part of the whole trick here, not having to sort of impose this, kind of contrive sometimes, need to say, everything's fine when, things are fine in the end, but, at times there will be turbulent and at times there will be negativity. And, so it's, and once again, in how you deal with it, not what is going on, but how you deal with it.
Right. Things are perfectly imperfect in a sense.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. That's a great thing that you say.
All right. Well, Dalien, looks like time is gotten away from us here and we are out of imaginary time for today. But the good news is there's plenty more where that came from. So we'll be back. In the meantime, we do have a song we'd like to leave you lovely listeners with. This is Soular. The song is called Insight. Hope you enjoy. Also, before we cue up today's song, as a quick reminder, don't forget to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.
Showing how much knowledge you have. Being a warrior is learning how to cry. Learning how to cry because when a man learns how to cry, he's learning to understand.